Welcome back to 15 Minutes With. Today we are joined by Ben Conroy. Ben is a two-time winner of the Connecticut Mid-Amateur. He won the 2018 Connecticut Amateur and is year in and year out one of the top players in the state. Ben, thanks for taking a few minutes to join us.
Yeah, no problem, Sam. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and as we talk, we were just talking before we hopped on, finally a spring-like day. We're doing this on March 9th, 55 degrees out today, and it's starting to finally feel like the season is right around the corner.
Yeah, I'm itching to get out and play again. I didn't really do much over the winter in terms of golf, so I am definitely going to get in the golf bug for the spring, and looking forward to starting to swing the club again.
Well, before we talk about this upcoming year, let's talk about your memorable win at the Connecticut Mid-Am this past year at Madison Country Club. You trailed by 5 shots at one point in the final round. What was your mindset early in the round while you faced that deficit?
Well, the morning round that day was really windy. There were a lot of high scores. Cody put up another great round like he did in the first round. And so at that point, going into that round, I was expecting the wind to stay blowing pretty good. And so I just was thinking it was going to be kind of a survival day. And I didn't think that there was going to be a low round out there that afternoon. So if Cody kept playing the way he was in the wind that morning, I thought he was going to be tough to catch. So my goal was just to try to go out and keep battling through the wind. I was really happy with how I played in the morning. So I just was going to try to battle it out and you know, you never know and see what happens, but try to at least stay within reach. It didn't end up being super windy that afternoon, which was kind of a pleasant surprise. And I got off to a decent start. You know, and just tried to keep going from there.
When did you start to think that you had a chance to chase Cody down? And I know he came back a little bit, but when did you start to think that you had a chance to win?
I would say probably going into the back 9 that round. I birdied 10, I think, to get to 4 under on that round, which I believe was 4 under total for the tournament, which is where Cody started the day. So I knew I was close, and my caddy was keeping an eye on the scores. And I bogeyed 11, and then I made a long putt for birdie on the par 5. I think it was 14. At that point, I knew I was right there. I didn't know exactly where I was. My caddy was kind of keeping an eye on it, but I was hitting the ball. I was driving the ball, maybe the best I ever have. So it was just, you know, going out and trying to birdie every hole. So that was sort of our game plan. And then I had a couple great chances that just snuck by on 16, and then one that was just short on 17, and then I piped one down the middle on 18. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, I'm assuming I need 3 here, right? And he said, you're tied. So I had a decent approach shot. I was about 12 or 15 feet just left of the pin. Wasn't able to get that one to drop. But cleaned it up for par, and at that point, it just, if Cody made a bogey or a birdie, it would have changed the result. But he parred out, and you know, his putt just slipped by on 18, and then off we went in the playoff.
So you guys tied the first playoff hole and went to the second playoff hole. And take me through that, because you hit a phenomenal approach shot to set up your winning birdie.
Yeah, so I laid back off the tee a little bit and ended up, I had a lot of short wedge shots in the afternoon, kind of between 90 and 100 yards, and felt like each one I got a little bit closer, a little more dialed in with the yardage. And so Cody hit a 3-wood right up the middle, and it kind of kicked off the left side of the fairway, and he ended up pretty close to the green. And the pin was in the front. There was kind of a big slope in the front, so it was, you know, it was going to be hard for him to get it close, we thought, from there out of the rough. So, you know, my caddy kind of looked at me and he's like, hey, man, this is the chance right here. So I had a great number. It was 93 yards. It was a perfect, you know, almost a full 60-degree wedge. You know, I was able to execute it, hit it close, and get the putt to go in. So it's a good feeling.
For sure. And you've mentioned your caddy a number of times, and there's an interesting story around that. I believe, if I remember correctly, it involves social media and reconnecting with an old friend, right?
Yeah, so we met through Jeff Evanier, who was a past Connecticut Open champion. He came up to work at Lyman Orchards, where I was working a couple summers, and Jeff was really good friends with with TJ, my caddy. So I met TJ through Jeff Evanier, and we worked up at Lyman Orchards for a summer together. And, he was a good player, and we played a lot of golf together that summer and got to be good friends, and kept in touch on and off over a couple of years after that. And, but I knew he grew up kind of playing Clinton Country Club and Madison Country Club quite a bit. And I believe he worked at Madison, back in kind of his high school and college days and that kind of thing. So I knew he knew the course really well. And I had 2 cell phone numbers for him in my phone. So I texted both of them about 3 days before the tournament and just said, hey, man, any chance you're around? He lives up in Boston, and he actually caddies at the country club up in Brookline a little bit too, and some other stuff. But I know he's kind of back and forth to Connecticut. So I said, hey, any chance you're around and available to loop for me on Monday and Tuesday at Madison? And didn't hear back. So I was like kind of bummed. And because I had never seen the course, I didn't have a chance for a practice round. I was going in totally blind. So I thought, boy, he would have been a great resource, to get out there with me. So never received either of my text messages. And then the morning of the tournament, I had a late tee time, and I was in the office for a couple hours getting some work done before I headed down to the course. And he sent me a message on Instagram saying, hey, man, I saw you're in the field at Madison. You want me to swing over and caddy for you? So it just was kind of funny. He didn't receive my text, but I was hoping he could. And then he reached out to me totally separately. So it was kind of one of those things. And when you have a good week and you win a tournament, sometimes those things go right. And I think that can help contribute to maybe a winning mindset, you could call it, or just the good vibes, or feels like things are clicking kind of thing. So it's just one of those things that makes you wonder, maybe this could be my week, if, just a sort of a stroke of good luck kind of thing. So, like I said, he's a scratch player. He's probably played Madison 500 times. So, especially some of those tee shots where you might not know exactly where you're going or what to do the first time around. And then once I saw it, I could tweak a little bit, to what I wanted to do, and that kind of thing. But he was really, really helpful, and it's fun having a good buddy on the bag with you and someone to talk to and ride around with. So it was kind of a fun coincidence that he reached out to me and ended up paying off really well.
For sure. So let's take a step back a little further now. How did you first start playing golf? What was your introduction to the game?
Yeah, so my dad never played a lot growing up. His father was actually general manager of Rhode Island Country Club back, I think it was probably the 1950s and early 60s. So he hung around a little bit and played a tiny bit as a young kid in the summers, but he never played in high school. He was a lacrosse and hockey player. So he didn't really start picking up the game seriously until after college, but fell in love with the game. His brothers played and that kind of thing. So when I was really young, he got me a little set of clubs and cut down some irons and that kind of thing. And we used to go play. I lived in Massachusetts for the first 6 or 7 years of my life. And we used to go play a little executive course, sometimes early on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And when I was, 5 or 6 years old and getting up early to go play with my dad, it was like the coolest thing. So, I played a little bit growing up, but when I really started to get into it, I had a good buddy of mine who was on my Little League team, and our dads were friends, and they kind of got together and said, hey, let's get Ben and my friend Cam Bradley, let's get him junior memberships over at Lyman Orchards for the summer. And I think I was 12. And he had a swimming pool, and either my mom or his mom would grab both of us almost every day around 9 or 10 in the morning. And we'd go over, and sometimes we'd play 7 holes. Sometimes we'd play 9 holes. Sometimes we'd play 14 holes. And we'd just go over to the golf course at Lyman and play for a few hours. And then we'd go hang out in his pool in the afternoon. And those were some pretty good summers when you're 12 or 13 years old. Sure. And so that's when we really, we were competitive and gamers and that kind of thing. So we'd always play match, and that's when we both started to get pretty good, and what led me to want to play in high school. And then it kind of went from there. So
when did you get involved in CSGA events?
Really not until college. I guess you would consider me somewhat of a late bloomer in the junior golf kind of category. I never played any AJGA events. I played some of the Connecticut section PGA junior events, in high school, just because I had a little bit of interest in playing in college. But I never played I think I've actually played in the junior amateur once. And that was the only CSGA event I played until college. And then I started playing in the amateur and that kind of thing each year. And I've played in as many as I could since then.
So if you were a little bit of a late bloomer on the junior circuit, you ended up playing college golf at Delaware and had a successful career at Delaware. How did you get on the radar? How did you end up playing at the University of Delaware?
Yeah, so actually, when I was a senior in high school, I was applying to like business schools around New England with not great golf teams. And then when the spring season came around, I was really interested in playing in college, but wanted to maybe play somewhere that was a little more competitive and that kind of thing. So I actually ended up going to, it was called the IJGA, International Junior Golf Academy in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Hank Haney was the lead instructor there at the time, and he was coaching Tiger at the time, and it was kind of a big thing. And so I took a post-grad year, and I went down there the year after high school and did sort of like a part-time college routine. We stayed on a college campus right outside Hilton Head and took, night classes each semester, just some basic stuff, and really just focused on our golf game. And then from there, I went to Coker College, which is a Division II school in Hartsville, South Carolina, and played there for 2 years of my NCAA eligibility. And but it was a small school. I had been away from home for a couple of years, and I just felt like the environment didn't quite vibe exactly with what I was looking for. So I looked into transferring, and Delaware was closer to home. Academics were a little more challenging, and it seemed like kind of a better fit. So I had reached out to a handful of schools, and Delaware ended up being the one that worked out in terms of being on the team and what they were looking for and what I was looking for. So I did my last 2 years, 2 years there.
What's your best story from your time at Delaware?
Golf related?
Golf related.
We won the 2011 Navy Fall Classic in a playoff. I ended up finishing second individually and had a really good final round. And we ended up in a playoff. And they sent 5 guys out from each team in 2 groups. And I ended up making a 10-footer for par that ended up being the 1-stroke difference between us and the other playoff team that helped seal the win. So that was it was a fun, a lot of parents and people around the green and that kind of thing. So it was a fun putt to make at the right time and help the team win, which was great.
During your career at Delaware, or before that, did you play against any notable players of names that people might recognize now?
Nobody that's really on the PGA Tour is recognizable now. Although when I was at the IJGA, Richie Rowensky was there, and Morgan Hoffman was there the year before me. So I didn't really meet Morgan Hoffman, but I played some golf with Richie, and I think he finished tied for 4th this past week at the Arnold Palmer. So knew him a little bit and played some golf with him. I played with a kid named Jace Long from the University of Missouri. We played in a tournament up at Turning Stone Resort up in upstate New York. And I played with him in the first 2 rounds, and he shot back-to-back 66s with no bogeys on a windy day on a challenging golf course. He was number 1 ranked player in the country at that time. I did not shoot 2 back-to-back 66s without bogeys.
67.
But
right?
But that was still to this day one of the more impressive displays of golf I've seen on a challenging course. He never even sniffed bogey for 36 holes. He just put on an absolute clinic. So not sure what he's doing these days, but at the time it was a pretty impressive day.
After your college career wrapped up, you played professionally for a little while. How long did you play pro golf? Where did you play?
Yeah, so I got a job, the head pro from Lyman Orchards when I worked there through high school and college, went down to the Country Club of Woodbridge when it was still open and had turned public. And so he gave me a job there working in the shop, and he gave me the ability to teach lessons, which was great. I majored in finance, but I really wanted to kind of stay in golf, at least for now, whether it was playing or coaching or that kind of thing. So I went down there and worked for a summer, and because I was giving instructions, I had to turn professional. So I played in the Connecticut Open as a pro and ended up losing in a playoff at Torrington and shot 65 in the last round, and was playing some pretty good golf at the time, and thought, gee whiz, maybe I should, give this a shot. So I didn't have any plans for that winter. So I looked up some tournament information and that kind of thing, and ended up spending 4 winters down in Florida playing on the various mini tours down there. And then, the state opens around New England, Mass, Cape Cod, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Providence, a bunch of those tournaments. And I worked a couple summers at Lyman Orchards, instructing as well over those summers. So kind of went back and forth, ended up going to Q school once, got through pre-qualifying, shot under par at first stage, missed the cut by 8 shots, and starting to think about getting married and having a family, and said, maybe it's time to become an amateur again. I love to compete, and I love to compete in good tournaments on great golf courses, and there's certainly no shortage of that in the amateur circuit around New England and around the country. So, it was a lifelong dream of mine. So it's a tough decision for anybody to kind of go back on that or that kind of thing. But what made it okay for me was knowing that I could still compete in golf tournaments on good golf courses, which is really what I love to do. So whether I was making money at it or not, I can continue that passion and get those competitive juices going. So yeah, it was 2017. I think I got my amateur status back, and it's been a lot of fun since then.
So let's take a brief step off the course now that you're obviously still playing golf and involved that way. But what do you do for work now?
I'm a sales rep, so I work with my dad, and we represent a couple of different manufacturers of kitchen cabinetry. So we have a network of dealers around New England that sell our products. So we're bouncing around, calling on them, and peddling our cabinets.
Yeah. So between work, you mentioned young family. How do you balance golf? How do you fit golf into your schedule?
I fit it in every single opportunity that I possibly can. It's certainly a challenge. I don't practice nearly as much as I used to or play as much as I used to. But working for my dad and being flexible and being on the road and that kind of thing, it's, sometimes I can stop and hit balls for half an hour in between appointments or something like that. So it's, my son's with me in the office a couple of days a week. So it's tough when he's around to get out and play. I'm looking forward to when he's a little bit older and hopefully he's interested in golf too. But, it's a challenge to find the time, but, any chance I get to sneak away for a couple of minutes here and there, hit some balls or play 9 holes or something, and I can set my own schedule for the most part. So, as long as I get done what I need to and keep the business side going, then my dad doesn't mind if I sneak away for 9 holes on a Tuesday afternoon, and oftentimes he'll join me for that. So we work hard, but try to squeeze some golf in when we can and try to keep the game sharp.
What kind of hobbies do you have outside of golf?
Family takes up a lot of it right now. It's awesome. My son's 1.5 and just a blast right now. So, but I like to play hockey. I had a hockey league that just started up again. Anything outside, getting outside to exercise or that kind of thing. My grandparents have a farm kind of nearby, and we make maple syrup in the spring. So we've been doing that on the weekends and that kind of thing. And I grew up a musician too. I still like to play the piano. So if I can sneak in a couple of minutes of that, I find that kind of meditative and good for the brain and that kind of thing. So that kind of stuff.
Do you play Mozart, or are you much more recent in your piano playing?
My instruction growing up was all classical for the most part. So I have a little bit of a repertoire there, but I like to play more of the contemporary modern stuff these days. Anything from Billy Joel and Elton John stuff to, who knows. So a mix.
There you go. All right, a couple more questions. We're talking with Ben Conroy. You won the 2018 Connecticut Amateur. What do you remember from that one? Was that your first win after you regained your amateur status?
That was, yeah. I lost the MidAm the year before in a playoff. But it gave me kind of playing against mini tour pros and guys that can go out and shoot 64 every time they tee it up. sort of had to adjust my caliber of competition. And certainly, no offense, there's a lot of great amateur golfers in Connecticut. But I sort of came in with the mindset that I've been playing a lot of golf for a long time. My game was pretty sharp, and I felt like I had the confidence to know that I could compete and win out here. It was a really fun week. It was a long week, like any Connecticut Amateur champion will tell you. It's a lot of golf, and I didn't have a caddy until the final round, so I was carrying my bag around Waterbury for that week. I had some great matches. Evan Grennis was the medalist, and we had a great match. I was 3 up through 14 or through 13, I think, and he birdied 14, 16, and 18. And we went to extra holes, and I ended up beating him on the 21st hole of that match, which was, I don't know if I've ever gotten mentally hyped up more for a match than I did for that one. So that was a great one. And then Rob Neaton, another great player, I played that afternoon, and we went to the 18th hole. And speaking of, kind of things that go your way or things that give you the feeling like it might be your week, we were all square through 15, and I hit my tee shot a little bit right on 16 and hit a wedge up over the trees, and it was just off the back right side of the green, and he was just short of the green, and the pin was over on the left side. And as I was walking up, I saw 2 of the CSGA rules officials kind of hovering over my ball and having some sort of discussion. And when I got up there was a big kind of, I don't want to call it a crater, but sort of a hole in the ground with some overgrown grass all around the edges. And it wasn't a sprinkler head. It wasn't an animal burrowing or anything like that. It wasn't marked as ground under repair. So it was just an integral part of the course. And as I was walking up, my ball was sitting on the edge of that hole, and it was still rolling a little bit. And a couple times it would move and then settle again, and then move and then settle again. So I was speaking with the rules official that was there, and I said, if it falls into that hole, do I get any kind of relief? And he said, no. That's what he had been discussing with the other official. So the ball luckily settled on the edge, and I said, as soon he was away. So I said, as soon as he hits, and his ball stops, I'm good to go, right? Because the longer I waited, the more it was, the chances that it was going to fall in there. So the ball ended up staying up, and I hit as soon as I could, and I hit it to about 5 or 6 feet. He just missed his putt, and I made my putt for par and went 1 up. And then we have 17 and 18. So it's one of those things where, half an inch or a gust of wind and it falls into that hole, I have to take a 1-shot penalty for relief and that kind of thing. And, but the ball stayed up. I ended up winning that match and then winning in the finals. So that was a fun day. That was a fun week for sure.
All right. And let's get you out on this one. We started off by talking about it's starting to get a little warmer outside. You said you haven't done much as far as golf goes over the winter. How do you prepare yourself for the season?
Well, I'm going to start today by hitting some golf balls. I try to work on fitness stuff over the winter and stay in shape and try to get a little stronger and that kind of thing. But I just, going to start getting out and hitting balls any chance I have. And try to get some of the rust off. Like I said, I haven't played a 9 or 18 hole round since probably end of October, beginning of November. So, once the snow really melts and the courses reopen, then just try to start sneaking rounds in as soon as I can. And I really want to try to focus on my putting this year. I've been striking the ball great the last couple of years and felt like there's some room for improvement in my putting. So I'm going to try to focus on that, which I can obviously start inside as well while the greens get into better putting condition. But just looking forward to hitting it again, looking forward to competing and excited. We got some great venues this year. So I'm excited to get out and play.
Well, it won't be long now. He's been Ben Conroy. Ben, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to join us on 15 Minutes With.
No problem, Sam. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I've been your host, Sam Dostler. Can't wait to see Ben and everyone else out on the course in the coming months. This has been 15 Minutes With.